Okay. So welcome back. I would kind of like say we are slow rolling into our second part of the course. And the second part of the course is much more aesthetic, I would say. Like to date, it's been a lot of like, here's Unreal Engine, here's how you do these things, and with a little bit of thought around why do we build these gameplay systems and whatnot. But there hasn't been a lot of major choices. I mean, there've been some major choices that we made related to, like, there's this pickup and there's this AI, but it really hasn't been anything that, I mean, there's the kind of the slow appearance of a game happening here, but there hasn't been a lot of art, I would say. And from now until the end of these videos, there's going to be a lot of that. It's probably terrible art, or maybe it's okay art. It all depends on your perspective and what you like. So that is all to say that everything I'm about to do and show you, there's workflows involved that are helpful, and there's software that's involved that is also helpful, and there's some thoughts involved that are hopefully inspiring. But it's like a lot of this either has to do with like what I like, or what I'm thinking in the moment, or given the fact that we don't have a lot of time, and we all know that larger games can take years of time, so there's a lot of shortcuts here. But I'm hoping to cover enough that gives you like opens up these fields of opportunity. And so for this video, we're gonna do something that sounds simple, but I think is gonna hopefully inspire you. So if we look at our main menu, right now we just have, when we mouse over, there's no sound, which is something that I think would be cool to have and pretty easy to do, and also introduce you to like a totally new workflow that I like. And so with that, we are going to open a web browser here, and we want to first download Audacity. So Audacity, for those of you that do not know, it's an open source, it's a free, and I'm not sure it's open source. It is open source, right? Yes, it is. It's an open source audio editor. And by that, it's very easy to use. It's pretty powerful. We're going to have to edit some audio. We need to record some audio. We need to edit that. We need to perform a few like effects on that audio. And then we'll use that to kind of tweak some of our UI sounds. And so that's the first thing that I want you to download for your OS. And the second thing I want us to use is, normally when I'm making, when I'm doing some sound design, or I'm making music or whatever, I'll have my own synthesizers or something else, or you just play an instrument. And when I was thinking about what would I use if I had just a keyboard, like a computer keyboard, and no money. And so that's kind of where I came up with some free soft synths. So the one that I chose for us is called Dext. Probably easiest for you just to type Dext synth in Google and then take the first link here. So it is a synthesizer that's modeled on the Yamaha DX7. And so for those of you that don't know, the Yamaha DX7 is a very, very famous 1980s synthesizer that looks like this, but it sounds like, it sounds pretty amazing. So it sounds like this. Yeah. So this is, again, around the aesthetics, like very much, that's just what I want to do. There's a few different types of free soft synths out there, more than a few. There's quite a few. And it's one way that you could make like some sound effects and make some music and stuff. And so we're not gonna dive deep into it. We're just gonna use it to make a few sounds for our UI that we like. Hopefully they'll all tie together, so it sounds like you didn't just grab sounds over the internet and stuff, which is fine too. But I'm actually more of a fan of like try to put a little bit of more effort into this stuff, because it lets you be more creative and make things nobody else has ever made. So with that said, I've already opened up Audacity, and recorded something that I'm now going to delete. And so this isn't a tutorial on how to use Audacity. There's so many of those online. I mean, the main thing I'll remind you of is since you're using since we, and probably you too, are going to be recording something that ultimately is a source from your PC, not from outside of your PC, you want to test that and make sure that you're getting the audio back in as you're recording it. And if you're on a Mac, there's a tool called Soundflower that is pretty good. And what Soundflower does is Soundflower essentially is a way to access your sound card and route the output of your sound card back to an input. And so I would recommend it if you're having trouble on a Mac, in terms of being able to get access to the, gosh, that's annoying, get access to the input there. Very cool synthesizer. Okay, so for me, what I did here is this is the input here, little microphone symbol, is I know that my output is this ADAT 3, 4. Like, don't worry about this list because I have a special setup. Yours is not going to look like this crazy. I have a lot of audio input devices here. And then in terms of like whether you want to record stereo or mono, you never know. I mean, it's a UI sound. Stereo is fine. And then this is just the output here. So I've already tested this. Tested this means, and then I've opened up Dex here, which is the soft synth. Tested it means that when I play something on this, and by the way, you can use your computer keyboard to access this like directly, which is kind of neat, right? So I've already tested so that when I play something on my soft synth, I know it's going to record here. So if I hit record and I open this up and I hit that key, I know I'm done. Okay, actually that's fine for what I want to do. So I've recorded from that, and if you wanted to continue to record, you can just hit record again and play some stuff, right? Okay, but I'm going to delete that. Okay, so just selecting all of that, delete. I'm also going to grab this stuff and delete, and grab this stuff and delete. And then let's go ahead and zoom in here. So what I'm doing is just kind of snipping off the silence so that I get a nice file here. So the first thing you want to do is I generally will normalize the sounds that I record. And that's normalize just basically means if you go to Effect, Normalize, this will take the waveform that has the most amplitude, that's the loudest, and it will use that to, think about it, just turn the volume up, right, across the board. So if I say, okay, that's going to make our sound as loud as it can be without clipping any of the waveform at the top. And so this is nice. You want to normalize sounds. There's normalization, there's compression. There's a lot of areas you can look into that are, I mean, this is a whole thing on sound design, but the basics that I do, I always want to make sure I normalize my sounds so that you're not like fiddling around with volume unless you really want to deal with volume in the game engine itself. So with that done, you can go to File, Export, Export as Wave, and I am going to show you here. I just have like a little folder called Taco Treasures, and I made one called Audio, and I want to name this UI Hover. So this will be the sound when you hover over the menu. Let's say OK. So when you're here and you hover over each of these, I want to play that sound, the sound that I just made here. So sounds cool. I saved it. So back in Unreal Engine, if we right-click in Content folder, we want to make a new folder. So we're going to call this one Audio, and I think we can just import directly in here. So if you right-click, choose Import to Game Audio. Great. And then you want to choose that WAV file, browse to it, and grab it. And here we are. And if you press play, that's the sound. It's like a phone button. That'll be fine. For UI sounds, especially ones where the user is moving over them very fast, you don't want a really long sound. So this is totally fine, I think. And we can always tweak it a little bit. For example, like if you want to, if you made a change to this in Audacity and you named it the same thing, if we right click, you can always choose to re-import, and that will just immediately re-import the sound with the same name in the same location. So it makes for a pretty fast workflow once you get used to it. Great. So we have that. Now what do we want to do? Now I think we need to implement a few things. We want it to be hovering. So if we go to our main menu, right now all we have is a bunch of on clicks, which is not what we want. We want on hover. So I'm going to go to a new area here, and let's go from the top here. Let's do our play button, and then go here on pressed, on released, on hovered. So I'm way down here, choosing on hovered, play button. And then the thing we want to use is if you type sound 2D, play sound 2D. Very cool. So plays a sound directly with no attenuation, perfect for UI sounds. That's what we want, two-dimensional sound. You don't want to choose this if you need the sound to be spatialized in 3D space, and you definitely don't want to choose it if you're doing any kind of VR experience, because it's going to plaster it directly to the player's head. I mean, there won't be any spatialization at all. It's quite weird. So choosing sound, we know we called it hover, UI hover. Let's select that. Great. So we have a bunch of other buttons that we want to add. And I feel good enough about this that I'm just going to start adding them. So we'll go down and on hover there and just start like clicking them all in here. The options button I didn't get, right? Oh, I did. The play button on hovered, quit button on hovered. I'm just going to throw them all in here. And what other buttons do we have? Return button on hovered, setting button on hovered. Only two more on hovered, and the last one on hovered. Okay, let's grab them all. And okay. Yes. So this isn't too bad, and again, we get it hooked up, and you'll get the point. I probably won't like the sound of this, but again, that's for us to deal with later. Okay, so with all of these hooked up, let's give it a shot. So when we hover over them, it should play that sound. So let's play. Nice. Okay, it's like a telephone. I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay. I'll deal with it later. So you know what? In subsequent videos, you'll see the sounds that I do like. Yeah. No, not good. And also, one thing to show you, I feel like it's too loud. So even though we've normalized the sound, so I just know that's going to be too loud. So let's go ahead and double click this. You can then edit the volume and the pitch right off the bat. So sometimes you might be able to say, I don't like that sound, but maybe if I raise the pitch or maybe I lower the volume. So we're going to cut the volume in half for that. And then just I double clicked to get into this details panel for that particular sound. And then pitch. Oh my gosh, do I want to do like 0.2 and just see what it's normally, people will put the pitch up, but I want to put the pitch down. So let's try it. Still bad. Still very bad. 1.5. I'm so embarrassed. Let's do that. I just doubled it. Okay, not terrible. Not great, but I mean, you're probably like, oh, that's good. No, we're gonna double it, and then I'm gonna stop. No, it was way better with 1.3 done. All right. So that's how you add sounds to an interface. And what I'm going to do I think I'll stop the video here, because again, you see you can just use this play sound 2D. We know how to record into Audacity. I showed you a little soft synth that makes cool noises. There's lots of different ones that we can pick. I'm sure that's kind of cool. Not really. So, play around with this. And then what I'm going to do for the next video is I'll have added at least UI sounds that I like to this, including a little bit of like a button click here, like adding a sound directly there, which is what we would want to do when they click the button. And then in the next video, I think I want to add some sounds directly to our character itself. And the first sound that I think I would want to add is the footsteps, because I think that we want to have some footstep sounds, because it makes a lot of sense to me. I was going to add like a jumping noise, but I'm just not sure yet if that's like the aesthetic that I want to have. But definitely footstep sounds is not the worst thing to have. And we'll get to see how we may be able to build more kind of sounds in a more random way, and then or programmatic way, so that we're able to just not play the same sound over and over again. Thanks.